Hello there, welcome to the Green Technology video sessions. In this video session, we are trying to learn developing specific adaptive measures for low-lying coastal areas. In the previous sessions, we have seen different types of the measures we have taken, that is the adaptive measures and mitigative measures. And the next one, the India is going to be facing the certain kind of that means the variety of the problem. In this case, the land is going to be filled with the different types of low-lying lands, that is the coastal area, inland and Himalaya areas we do have. So on that basis, what kind of the measures we need to take it, what kind of the problems are going to be rising. So here, the giant ocean heat wave called the blob has caused the biggest seaboard die-off on the record. So in this case, you can see here, there is a one heat wave. The seaboards are completely washed out. So they are completely expired here. So then that is the heat wave. Generally, it is coming from the ocean itself. So their example of adaptive measures for a large coastal city. So in this case, what will happen? We are taking the Mumbai city as the example, to which the people from all over India gravitate for seeking the employment, because here we have a lot of job opportunities, because they have a lot of industries are there. Then these people are working for the society for the manufacturing of the products and developing the different kind of the technologies. So that's why it is attracting the number of crowded people, the educated people, uneducated people, at the three levels of the skills people they are going to be attracting in the Mumbai city. So then what will happen here? The Mumbai has been identified as one of the 6 major cities vulnerable to the global warming and sea level rise, because as we know that the Mumbai is going to be completely located at the Arabian, Indian Ocean. So then this is going to be subjected, as we seen that the small islands are going to be eaten by this sea level rise. So the measures contemplated are here. Some years down the line, the flooding of low-lying land is expected to occur in coastal areas near Mumbai. These areas have been identified from now, and the people lying such areas have to be warned and moved to the course of the time. Suppose there are going to be a heavy floods are going to be coming into the Mumbai. Nowadays, we are also facing the same kind of the rain. So then what happened? The roads and the drainage systems and the low-lying areas are going to be completely flooded with the water. So then in this case, what will happen? By predicting this kind of things, and then they have to mobilize the people, low-lying area people, to the high ground levels, so that we can avoid the human being the human being losses over there. At the same time, the property losses also going to be, we can overcome. Then economically they are going to be in the good position. So then it is generally the poor people who settle in low-lying areas, as such areas are often available more cheaply. Now the development of such areas has to be the prevent also for the same reasons. Suppose low-lying areas are going to be highly vulnerable for the floods. Then what will happen? That area is going to be available for at the low cost. The many people are going to be adopting the areas, and they are started to constructing their own house, and they are started to develop. So then what will happen? This is going to be the prevent also for the same reason. We don't want to give that lands for the particular for the development of the buildings. Then we need to send to the higher grounds. Traffic moving. In this case, what will happen? The same, suppose you can take it the city of like Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and these areas are also going to be generally what will happen. They are low-lying areas also there within the city itself. So then what will happen? Rather than to rising the ground level, they are going to be adopting the different strategies, that the pumping stations they are going to be the constructing. Then what will happen when the rains are going to be accumulating that area? So then this pumping station is going to be pulling that water to the outside to the canal, so that we can prevent the excessive losses in terms of the property, in terms of the human. So these are the measurements we need to take it. So the best example, the Mumbai, certain low-lying areas also there within that city. So the pumping stations they constructed to save the people. So in this case, the wells in coastal areas will turn into backbrush. Agriculture and mangroves in these areas will be affected by the silent intrusions. In this case, what will happen? So when the coastal areas are going to be nowadays, the sea water is going to be penetrating into the groundwater and they are going to be converted into the salt water. So that water is going to be not helpful for the agriculture, then the crops is going to be decreases. To overcome this one, they have to be adopt the rain harvesting the technology, so that the groundwater is not going to be more. Automatically the sea water penetration is going to be reduces. So the more storage of the grain will be needed to tide over the difficult food periods. The better seed banks will be needed overall the country. So in this case, what will happen? The more storage of the grains, it will going to be helpful to the country, so that we can feed in the difficulty times. The better seeding banks also we need to develop it, so that in that seeds are going to be harvestable at the difficulty times also. So the freshwater resources will become crucial in such a regions. Water conservation, recycling will be needed. Evaporation from the lakes will be need control. A better wastage of the management will be needed too. In this case, what will happen? So then in this case, suppose you can take the Dubai or those coastal areas of these middle European countries. So then they don't have that level of the water resources. They mainly depends on the so they started to converting the seawater. They are going to be making to evaporate, and they are getting the drinking water from that. At the same time, they are recycling water also they are using to feed the trees and other they are going to be using. So then what will happen? The other part is that to reduce the evaporation from the lakes, and for better management will be needed too. So then the foundation of the buildings will need a special protection against the seawater aggressions and the resultant corrosions. In this case, when the seawater is going to penetrate into the ground, then we know that the foundation we are preparing with the steel as well as the concrete. But this seawater is going to be started to penetrate into the concrete, and the steel is going to be getting rust. So that what will happen? It is required the special kind of the design to penetrate of the seawater into this and the foundations. So in other cases, what will happen when the medical emergency like malaria, dengue and COVID-19 will increases with the floods and causes the health problems. Increased control measures against the water and easier availability of the medical facilities will, and therefore it is needed. So these are the kind of the measures the government have to take as the adaptive measures for the safety of the people, to protect their people. So besides the health, all business and commerce will be affected by the uncertainties in the climate and sea level rise. The sea level rise will affect every port and harbour in India. So this is kind of the predictive measures. That means we need to measure the loss of such a disasters. So in this, the most importantly, the migration of the people will occur from the low coastal areas to the higher areas to avoid the rising levels. This will cause the severe hardships, because the coastal line of the people have different type of the culture, and then when they are shifting to the higher grounds, they need to share the land, water and other resources with the already existed people. Then because of this one, there is we measure this part also. These migrations will be not only from the areas within the country, but also the neighboring countries. Suppose India have the neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Andaman, and these people. So then what will happen? They used to be migrate to the India because of their lands are going to be occupied by the sea levels. The political and security problems will have been investigated, and some steps have to taken. So the developing adaptive measures of the inland areas. That we have seen that the low-lying areas, what are the problems are coming, and how we need to be mobilize the people, and how to develop the different type of the resources to help the people. At the same time, inland areas also going to be subjected to two types of, mainly the draft as well as the heavy floats are going to be coming, and the migration people also going to be coming. So then how to develop and this kind of the facilities. So inland areas will suffer from different set of problems from the coastal areas just referred to. The adaptive measures needed for inland areas will have to take account some erratic climate situations besides the effects of the drought and early snow and glaciers melting, especially of the northern rivers. the population will tend to move from coastal to upland areas. There we can see the inlands also going to be, because it was the connected, well connected with the rivers. So from Himalaya has its own rivers from there. So then it is going to be passing to the inlands only. So then when the ice is going to be melting, then these rivers are going to be overflowing, and then floods are going to be coming, and the draft situations also going to be coming. So then migration people also coming. The inland area also must be make it ready to face these kind of the problems. So the snowfall and glaciers in the north have their own dynamics. As everyone knows, the snow, as long as it remains snow, holds the water in a solid form. As soon as the temperature warms up and the snow melts and the liquid gushes forth. Thus the major North Indian rivers, which are known snow feet, will have the floods in them as the snow melts early with a global warming, and will perhaps have no water in them in later months. There will therefore be the problems of too much and the too little. This will also be affecting the agriculture. As we know that the North India mostly they are going to be the Himalayan connected rivers are going to be there. When the snowfall is more, as we know that the heavy floods are going to be coming. So then at the same time, once the snow is going to be over, then there is no water is available. So then there is a drought situation is coming. By keeping all these things, we have to take the certain kind of the adaptive measures from the government as well as from the local people. The rapid snow melting will cause the flooding low-lying lands adjacent to the river banks. These areas have to be identified from now, and the people living in such areas will have to be warned and move in course of time. It is a good to recapitulate that generally it is in the very poor people have settled in such areas. As they are often available more cheaply, the new developments in such areas has also to be prevented in the same reasons. So the cyclones can be damage the areas irretrievable. Areas in the Sundarbans of India, Bangladesh have had their soils irretrievable damaged by the resulting the floods, making the necessary for people to migrate to other areas in interesting of the agriculture. So these are going to be the problems are going to be facing. So the flooding due to the rain will also occur in some parts of the urban areas of the cities on river bank. More pumping stations will be needed to remove the water. So from the streets of such a cities are keeping the moving. This inland also, the up and downs are going to be hills and valleys also there. That is the problem here. Already we have discussed. For example, quoted in Bihar, where the Kosai river leads to the flooding and much damage. With their fields under the water for long periods, the people have turned to growing and the fox nut, which grows well in water-lodged farms and ponds. From the hesitant begins. It has become the flourishing business today and benefit on the adoption. Certain advantages also there that the Bihar is going to be taking from that part. So Assam flood-prone districts, the people have learned to survive the floods by building their houses on tilts and planting more flood-tolerated crops, innovating more flood-holding systems, undertaking more biodiversity conservation methods and other coping strategies. Because the nature will make you to learn many things. That means the Assam people also started to planting that variety of the plants where they can take the this kind of the floods, and the variety of the crops also they are going to be cultivating. And wells adjacent such as the rivers will reflect the same situations, too much and too little water in them. Agriculture in those areas will demand and renewed need for the irrigation to tide over the difficulty periods of the snow and manage the new water the situations. In this case, what will happen, the wells near to the rivers also they will face the same situation, because suppose you can take in they are going to be the most water is going to be they are using from the river as well as from the well, and in Orissa mostly they are going to be depends on the rainy season as well as the certain kind of the rivers. So we need to be careful. So the entire river the status in North India will need to be reviewed. Much advertised systems linking the rivers of the India will perhaps have to be reviewed and modified to meet the new situations taking into the ecosystems. So the agriculture practices will have to change in prior areas. Suppose you can take the Gujarat, or maybe some part of the Punjab also. They are going to have the lands of the sand is there. This is completely dry area. They have developed different types of the crops and they are cultivating. They succeeded. The crops requiring less water will have to be cultivated. So then they are using the more fruits and more different types of the vegetables they are cultivating there, because they require the less amount of the water. If you cultivate the rice, is required the huge amount of the water, they are not going to be possible. So that's why we need to educate the people where the crops have the less water. Such a crops we need to take into the picture. The more storage of the grain will be needed to tide off over the difficulty periods. This already we discussed. The better seed banks will be needed in all over the country. So the water conservation and recycling will be needed. Suppose we can take it the big cities. After the usage of their the household needs, the washing of the utensils, washing clothes, taking the bath time, these waters are going to be simply leaving into the drainage. Rather than they need to construct the ground pits, so that this water must be go to the feet of the pits, so that this water is going to be harvesting is going to be taking place. Regarding this one, the Tamil Nadu government has made mandatory that every house must have this water recharging is required. If they don't have that, then automatically the government facilities like electricity supply and other facilities, they are going to be halted until they are going to be preparing this ground recharge pits. The desert like areas have to be converted into areas where the agriculture can be undertaken. This case also, this kind of the practices also we need to learn from this Gujarat and Punjab, and how they are going to be doing this agriculture and how they are going to be doing water for a long time. So the forest cover can also be similarly increased, so that we need to carbon sinks, so that what will happen, it will absorb the carbon, the climate changes are going to be within the limit. So the malaria, dengue, it is going to be, again the floods are coming, the same problems are going to be repeating, so that we need to improve our medical facilities. Besides health, all business commerce will be affected by the uncertainties in the climates, right? Mostly migration people also going to be the same situations. What is the main outcome of this? Adaptive measures for long coastal cities and adaptive measures of inland areas, because these two have the two distinctive characteristics are available in the coastal as well as the India. According to the requirement, we need to adopt the different type of the strategies to address the issues. And thank you. To make you educate, more number of videos we are doing. For more updates, follow my channel.